Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new episode of F1 24 Career Mode here on the channel. I hope you're all having a great day. Today we head to the Brazilian Grand Prix weekend where it is a sprint weekend, so of course a bit of a change of pace here. We'll have two short qualifying sessions as well. We spent this week kind of adapting some parts. We're coming off of an 11th and 12th place finish respectfully in Mexico between myself and my teammate of Alex Albon. Max Verstappen well in control of the championship as Charles Leclerc picked up his third win of the season last episode, but not looking promising going into Brazil to keep his championship hopes alive. Everybody coming into this weekend pretty well with some form of upgrades, so not seeing a lot of changes overall in the stacking order. But we come into this weekend with some excitement. Sao Paulo here, this Brazil Interlagos circuit is a track that I really enjoy driving around, so I was hoping that we were going to have some good fortune. It's been a couple of races now since we've been inside the points here as we head down into turn one in free practice one on Friday afternoon, and immediately I found that, yeah, the rear end's got a little bit of that tendency to slip and slide around a little bit here, so that's something we're going to have to be aware of, especially in that long sweeping right-hander at the tail end of Sector 1. The car just loves to slide, or sorry, that's about halfway through Sector 2, that is. But overall, the car outside of that felt like it was hooked up to the circuit pretty well. It was gripping the track, gripping the surface, I should say, and yeah, overall I was pretty confident with how the pace was looking, and really not sure though if we're going to have a car that's capable of getting points today. I think that's the big question. Is it going to be capable of scoring points? We've kind of gone back and forth all season with this Williams team where we'll kind of get on a bit of a stretch where we score some points and we'll kind of go through a bit of a lull and we don't get any points at all as we come through towards the end of free practice one. We ended up 9th and 10th between myself and Albon here, but he beat my lap time on a slower compound, of course the mediums compared to my lap, which was on that soft compound tire. We rolled through into sprint qualifying, a short session now, one timed session. Everyone knows the situation. You see the time on the board. There's no one getting eliminated. Just go out, run the quickest time you can, and wherever you end up at the end of that timed session is where you're going to start in the sprint, and it follows through and works the exact same for the Grand Prix as well. We roll through into sprint qualifying now. What can we do? Our first lap was absolute garbage, actually, so I was P20 about a second off. I just didn't have a good lap. It was just really messy, so didn't even bother to show it. We gained a second very, very quickly here. Now, was my expectation wasn't the highest. I've had just kind of the F1 23 Brazil kind of on my mind coming into this weekend, and knowing I've never really been a hugely great qualifier when it comes to Brazil. I guess I'm not a great qualifier in general, but nonetheless, we end up P13 right off the bat, but looking for more time. And we had put in 3 laps now once we come around one more time on this set of soft compound tires. Everybody on track now making their final laps attempts here, and we come through to the line, only have a 10th of a gain, and it keeps us, of course, P13, but I keep on searching for time. What can we get by the end of sprint qualifying? And you can see we have found nearly 0.2 of a second. We go a little bit deep, though, on the apex. It's going to give up quite a bit of time, about 1/10, but it comes back a little bit in the right direction as we come through the final couple of corners. Now, one legitimate corner remains through this left-hander, 0.2 gain, a little bit wide on the exit, but we remain about 0.2 of a second better to the line. We go P7, but it ends up P9 and P11 for myself and Alex Albon. Zhou Guan Yu at the bottom of the grid, but overall, quite happy and satisfied with a qualifying effort like that. And on pole position for the sprint, it's Fernando Alonso.
Here we go then. The formation lap is underway ahead of today's sprint.
Everybody, as expected, starting on the softs, will remain on the softs all sprint long. Can Alonso stay at the front?
Let's hope for the best, boys. Our pace after lap 1 fades, so I will do what I can.
Okay, Max, no pressure this weekend. Just do what you do best, and we will close in on that 4th title.
As all the cars take their positions on the grid, the final preparations have been made, and all that's left is for the drivers to deliver on track.
Right, mate, get after it in turn 1 here. We don't know how difficult it will be to pass after that.
Yeah, 10-4. I'll do whatever I can here to try and maybe catch a car or two off guard in turn 1 and see what we can do. So, Exactly that. Let's see what we can do as we pull up to the grid. The Mercedes, the pair of Mercedes, Hamilton, Russell, not great starting positions for the pair of them, just right around us now. Hamilton P7, not bad, but Russell P10, Piastri just in front of us as well. It's 5 red lights. Fernando Alonso's going to lead the field. Underway as we are heading down into turn 1. Lights out and racing. The pair of Ferraris are going to be wheel to wheel into turn 1, and the 2 Red Bulls side by side just behind. Who's going to come out on top of this Ferrari battle? It looks like it's going to be Charles Leclerc, and Perez, I believe, is going to get out in front of Max Verstappen. Yes, he will. As now Perez, not a great home Grand Prix last episode in Mexico, and in the background I've been able to get past Lewis Hamilton. We'll take a look at my start here momentarily, but we have made some gains, and as well there's Lance Stroll just in that Mercedes sandwich just behind as well, but everybody settling in so far. Both the Red Bulls wide and off track there, as now Verstappen I think gave up a spot to one of the McLarens. There's Hamilton going at it with one of the Alpine. Stroll wide, they're 3 wide. My goodness, racing on this opening lap a little bit chaotic, but it looks like they're gonna get it sorted out somehow, as Russell goes through passing Lewis Hamilton. So now Russell is directly in line behind myself, but it looks like that dirty air threw off both the Red Bulls on this opening lap. Those pair of Red Bull cars just didn't look good, but now as we come towards the end of lap number 1 starting lap 2, here comes that high power Mercedes passing us up the inside into turn number 1. So we drop down to P9. Of course, only the top 8 score points when it comes to sprints, but here's a look at just my POV of the start. Look at Piastri getting after it into turn number 1, but we went 3 wide around the outside of both the Mercedes cars. Russell actually did get ahead, but I got really aggressive. That could have gone very wrong, but it worked out in my favor nonetheless, and we actually won the drag race down towards turn number 4. So we would settle in though to P9 after Russell would get us back to start lap number 2, and just kind of feeling things out, because I don't think we're going to have much beyond this point, because we know all the cars in front of us are quicker than us right now. We were close to Mercedes for a bit in the R&D, but now they've pulled back in front of us by a comfortable margin now, as Charles Leclerc with a move to start lap 3 on Fernando Alonso, who drops into second place. Leclerc to the lead of the sprint. Ferraris first and third, looking like they've got some decent speed this weekend. Carlos Sainz there, the Spaniard, runs in third place over Perez, Piastri, Verstappen, the rest of the top 5 and 6. And you can see that dirty air through that long sweeping right-hander is really throwing some drivers off. Going wide there was George Russell, but he was not the only one dealing with this, but he was still putting up a good pace, putting a move up the inside of Norris into T1 on lap number 4, and he should be able to complete this overtake. But of course, this is what I want to see, because it gives me an opportunity to close in, as now Lewis Hamilton, he's still engaged with guys like Stroll, Gasly as well into turn 1. Here comes Gasly passing Stroll, maybe passing Hamilton as well, as he's going to try and keep it committed on the left side. Stroll, however, is going to have a run with the DRS. Hamilton has no DRS. He's going to be very vulnerable down towards turn 4. What does Stroll do? He just follows through with Gasly, who goes through on Hamilton. Stroll through into P12. Hamilton down to P13. That is a battle that's going to continue for the rest of the Grand Prix. I'm sure they're going to go back and forth a few more times. As for myself, we just run P9. I mean, at this point, there's not much I can really do. You can still see dirty air throwing off some drivers now, and it happens to Lance Stroll as well now on lap 7. Contact even, as he rejoined the racetrack alongside Hamilton. These two would continue to battle it out, and Stroll's going for an overtake. Here comes Alex Albon. Hamilton's having a disastrous sprint. It's just not working out for him. He's been vulnerable all race long, and now our teammate of Alex Albon would get past him as well. He drops to 14th, Albon to 12th, Stroll to 13th. We maintain P9, and like I was saying, I just don't have the pace, of course, to fight with a McLaren or a Mercedes, so it was all about just bringing it home at this point. Now we got 1.7 seconds to Ocon. He was closing towards the end of this sprint now, but yeah, this was as far as I could go. We come to the final lap, and the gap had grown now to nearly 2 seconds to Lando Norris, but it's Charles Leclerc in a train leading over Fernando Alonso and teammate Carlos Sainz, who's going to come through. Leclerc wins the sprint, keeping the championship hopes mathematically alive, but realistically it continues to dwindle. But Verstappen only manages P6 as we come through ourselves across the line for P9, 1 spot shy of scoring points. Yeah, sorry guys, I mean, points would have been cool, but I don't think we could have really done much more than that. You hear my message over the radio to the team. I just personally don't think there was anything left in the tank there. Leclerc, driver of the day. We look at the finishing results there, and a great solid effort here on Saturday for Oscar Piastri, actually beating his teammate of Norris. Albon ends up P13, Hamilton 15th, actually got beat by a Sauber, his former teammate of Valtteri Bottas, a pair of Haas cars at the very bottom of the grid. We come through and a short qualifying now for the actual Grand Prix a little bit later on in Saturday afternoon towards Saturday evening at this point now, and looking for a solid qualifying effort again like we had in the sprint. P9 was great and I felt like better than the expectation, but we only managed P17 after our first clean lap in qualifying, so that was a bit of a concern to say the least. Nonetheless, continuing on the track like we did in the sprint, trying to find that time, and we go up to P15, and we would just continue to click off laps the exact same as we did in that sprint qualifying, seeing what we can do, seeing what we can find. We were finding just little bits and pieces here. It felt like every lap that I was putting down, there was enough fuel in the car to do about 5 laps if I needed, and it certainly looks like I'm going to need it here today. Now as we come through to the front stretch again, and nearly a 10th gain and up to P14. So it was only a little bit better as we came towards the end, and it was again back up to P13, but that's really all she wrote. I try to find a little bit more time in it as we come towards the end of the lap, and it was about 0.5 of a second, and that doesn't gain us anything. And by the time everyone had made their laps for one final time, we were way down the order. P15, 6 spots worse than the sprint, while Albon out-qualifies us, ends up P10. As you see the rest of the qualifying order, Verstappen set to lead the field to the green.
Formula One returns to Interlagos once again with the stage set for what promises to be another classic Sao Paulo Grand Prix. Sebastian Vettel famously clinched his 3rd championship here in 2012, and just 4 years later, Max Verstappen treated us to one of the finest wet weather drives of all time. We're racing today then at Interlagos, a historic 2.7-mile circuit and one of the few anti-clockwise tracks on the calendar. 15 corners in total, 9 to the left and 6 to the right, with a technical middle section opening up to a flat-out Sector 3. That gives us our best passing opportunity down into Turn 1. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. And it's Charles Leclerc in P2. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Fernando Alonso, Perez, Hamilton, Norris, Russell, Magnussen, Albon, Sainz, Gasly, Hülkenberg, Oscar Piastri, Tsunoda, Golden Boy, Ocon, Stroll, Bottas, Joe, and Daniel Ricciardo fills the last spot on the grid. Now it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track.
A few grid penalties there. We are not racing on the softs. I did not enjoy the softs in the sprint, so we have changed our strategy. We're going to start on the mediums and go to the hard compound tire here and hope that this is a strategy that's going to benefit us as we get ready to go racing.
Here we go then, the formation lap gets underway and the excitement here is building as we near ever closer to the start of the race. Which team will come out on top? Who's got their strategies right for today's race? Well, we'll soon find out.
We see some split strategy, some electing softs, some electing medium. Second and third, Leclerc Alonso going the medium route, while Verstappen on pole on his own on the soft.
As the cars come back towards the grid to line up for the start of the race, each driver will be wanting to get the best start they possibly can, and they'll be hoping to finish today's race on the podium, and failing that, within the points.
Alright guys, we got a top 10 yesterday. I don't see why we can't do it today. A bit more work to do, but I'm going to get after it right off the bat.
Go get those spots, mate.
So we're ready to roll now. Some work to do, of course, in the bottom 5 in terms of starting positions. Our teammate of Albon a little bit further up the grid, but Verstappen on his own doesn't have Perez to help him. What can he do? as we get ready to go racing the Brazilian Grand Prix. 5 red lights, and it's going to be underway here from Interlagos now as we head down towards turn 1. A bit of a slip and slide right off the bat, side by side. Leclerc up the inside of the Dutchman, and Verstappen through 1 and 2. Verstappen powers through though on those soft compound tires. Leclerc fights back even. They're going to drag race down this first straightaway outside of the turn 1 chute, and Alonso's going to settle in just behind. Wait to see what happens. It's Leclerc through to the lead. Alonso lunges one up the inside, and he might go through in a second, but Verstappen's not going to lift. They continue wheel to wheel, and who is going to back out first? I think it's going to be Alonso. It is Alonso. Verstappen through into second. He knew that was crucial to maintain at least P2, and he did exactly what he needed to do. Everybody settling in. I'm actually going for a move here on the inside of Oscar Piastri after a great sprint. It's not a hot start to the Grand Prix and qualifying, I should say, for Piastri as well. We continue around the outside of the Australian. You see some more side by side here at the tail end of the grid, but overall, again, we did make some ground here on this opening lap, and that's the main thing. It was about making up ground. What is passing going to be like? We don't really know because we got up to P13, but in the sprint we didn't really have quicker, we only had quicker cars in front of us, so passing was pretty hard to do. And speaking of quicker cars, the McLaren goes back past me. We lock up into turn 1, and that allows Esteban Ocon and the Alpine to go through as well, so the 2 spots we gained have been lost at the end of this first lap, back down to where we started in P15. Okay, settle in, let's just wait for things to happen here, and you can see cars still struggling in the dirty air here through that long sweeping uphill right-hander. I myself as well, was getting the same thing, and this is not base game stuff. This is the AI fix mod. It creates that dirty air to try and separate the field more, and sometimes it leads to kind of moments like that where the dirty air really throws the car off. Now we're seeing Verstappen put those softs to work starting lap 4. To the lead, Verstappen goes over Leclerc. Now he's looking for his 67th win in Formula 1 if he could pull it off today, and he's in, well, now perfect position to do exactly that. We're at the back of this little group here. You got Hulkenberg, Piastri, Ocon, our teammate as well up there of Alex Albon, and we're just kind of being patient, but I am already starting to slip and slide a little bit here on these medium compound tires. Going to see a big slide there out of that final turn. That was getting a little bit frustrating already. I just don't get it, man. These cars, they're so slidey lately.
Just tough it out, mate. Hang in there.
You hear Mark say, just tough it out, hang in there, do what you got to do, as we head down into turn number 1, and that's Hulkenberg locking up. That's a free spun. Our teammate of Albon spun around, side by side still. We got to leave room for Hulkenberg, a huge mess out of nowhere, into turn 1, no safety car, no nothing. We continue on, but Albon spun around. He loses it all on his own.
No f***ing grip, man.
You hear what Albon has to say. No grip. We gained 2 spots. We're back to P13 out of that, and now Esteban Ocon's going for a move here on Oscar Piastri. He's going to go around the outside, get it done into P11, P12, but hold on, we got to run out of this on Piastri now. It seems like the mediums are starting to kick off a little bit. We'll move to the left side. We both have a run on the back of the Frenchman into turn 4, and we're going to be wheel to wheel with Piastri on lap number 8. 1 lap after our teammate of Albon's gone around. He's all the way at the back of the grid, and now we're side by side. Who's going to lift first? I don't lift. We keep it pinned around the outside, dip the lefts into the grass, and we've spun ourselves around, and that's going to completely set us back and ruin our chances of points here today. And you see it right there, a rookie mistake, trying to stay committed, and we pay the price. I'm sorry guys, that was all me. Obviously no excuse for what I just did right there. That was me pushing too hard, trying to stay in front of Oscar Piastri. We breezed back past Yuki Tsunoda, but of course James Vowles, our team principal, I'm sure is not going to be impressed that both myself and Albon have self-spun ourselves in a matter of 2 laps, and yeah, not good to say the least. And he's actually in the booth this weekend. He'll be joining from the pit wall when Crofty and Brundle come in for the through the grid segment, and we'll have to kind of wait and see what he has to say there. Nonetheless, yeah, myself and Albon have failed the team today so far now, as the battle for the lead, however, is heating up quite a bit. As you can see, those softs for sure on Verstappen are fading. It seems like those mediums are really making a big difference today on the longer run, and as it looks like Verstappen's car just hopped there and Alonso nearly crashes on the straightaway. He saves it, but it's Leclerc to the lead. Verstappen maintains P2, Alonso P3. I myself continuing to work our way forward. Sonoda, by the way, was a really easy pass because he was having a mechanical issue, but now look at this. Here's now Carlos Sainz, lap 13. He's going to take advantage of a lockup from Perez, and Sainz has been working his way forward all race long, and now he's up into 4th place. I don't know if he's going to be able to get much further than that. However, now as that was all happening, this happens as well. Ricardo locks up on my nose just moments before Perez did it, and that allows me to go through into P17, but you can see we are struggling ourselves for more grip. We've already had that self-spin. Albon's had that self-spin as well. It's not an easy day here in Brazil. It's not pretty. We've had decent pace all weekend long. It was, of course, just 2 errors from myself and Albon that have ruined the team's chances for any form of success here today. But all we can do is spend these final 22 laps trying to make it up, but you can see I am just hanging on. We're not far from the pit stops now, and speaking of pit stops, Verstappen comes in from 2nd place. He'll be putting on those medium compound tires and going to the end. No, that's a hard compound, so he goes from hards, from softs to hards, and as well, you're going to see Sainz pitting for the same situation now. It seems like Sainz did a really good job on those softs, actually, compared to Verstappen, who really fell off at the end of that first run, but it's just a matter of moments now until we see the guys on mediums pitting, and here comes Zhou Guanyu off on the soft compound tires. We start lap 17. Perez as well comes into the pits, but we are going to be coming in at the end of lap 17, and we are moving. I mean, we are reeling in Esteban Ocon, and keep in mind, we were around his area when we had that self-spin, so we made some great progress back. Leclerc now coming in at the end of this lap, and Alonso as well. A smooth stop, but they're going to be giving up time to Verstappen. So Verstappen is going to take the lead of this Grand Prix, and by a comfortable margin. You're going to see as Verstappen comes around, Leclerc has got some work to do if he wants to run him down. And of course, we know catching someone's one thing, passing them is another. We pit at the end of that same lap now that they started coming into the pits. We follow Esteban Ocon in, looking for a solid pit stop. It's not been pretty so far, but hopefully the team, the pit crew, can do something to keep us in a good position as we come in to get these mediums off. And there you see a problem on the left front. They can't get the left front wheel off. It's turning into a nightmare of a race now, and that is going to set us back. I'm not saying anything because I already made my own mistake. So I'm not going to call out the team for making a mistake here now. So we were down in P17 after this, and immediately though, a lap later, getting an opportunity to run down Zhou Guanyu and make a bit of an unexpected dive back to the right side, around the outside of turn 4. Job done there on the Chinese driver. Another spot gained into P15, but P16, sorry, but Lance Stroll, fellow Canadian, next up the road. I mean, you compare his performance right now to, Fernando Alonso. It's quite dramatic how far off Stroll is, especially with where Aston Martin ranks up, in the R&D and whatnot. But here comes Zhou Guanyu back on the front straightaway, back up my inside. So he will, was able to pounce on being able to stay in my DRS, and now we're going to have to try and find a way back around him. But not a position I want to be fighting for. Lap 21 we come to now, and same situation as earlier where we passed Zhou. The opportunity rises again. Same move, textbook, around the outside. We'll get the job done. He tries to keep the nose on the left side. We'll squeeze him a little bit, but leave him still a car with nearly contact, but we get the job done. And now it's basically okay. Set our focus in on driving away. We're 3 seconds now behind Lance Stroll, 4 seconds behind Esteban Ocon. We have 15 laps of racing to go, so it's very possible to get there. However, I just don't know if we have enough pace in this car. We'll have to wait and see what happens over the next few laps. There is a Haas car that's kind of backing up some guys. I believe that's Nico Hülkenberg, so that could help us a little bit. It was Nico Hülkenberg on the medium compound, by the way. A bit of a bold strategy here, but he was overtaken by Ocon, who was now starting to drive away. But Hülkenberg was backing up Lance Stroll, so I'm faster than both Hülkenberg and Stroll, so that gap is starting to come down as we approach 10 laps to go in this Grand Prix. So over these next few laps, I think we can get there, but we'll of course have to wait and see what time tells. But with 10 laps to go, let's go through the grid as James Vowles will be joining from the pit wall.
It's all Max Verstappen in control. Since the pit stops, he leads by about 2 seconds with 10 laps to go. We're joined in the pit lane by Williams team principal, James Vowles. James, can you describe your race as a team so far?
not good, obviously. Both our drivers out there looking like amateurs today. Rubbish driving from both. I'm quite frustrated by that, to be honest. We also had a pit error on Gary's car, so that just adds to the day it has been so far.
What do you do about that with your drivers, James? Do you pull them aside and say, hey, what are you doing? What will follow today?
Oh, there will certainly be a conversation. We're fighting hard for every spot in the constructors, and it was careless to throw their days away like that.
All right, thanks, James, and hopefully the race gets a bit better for the team. You see Bottas there in 12th, just behind Oscar Piastri.
Oscar ran so well in the sprint yesterday, but it hasn't translated at all to the Grand Prix. A day of struggle once again for the young Australian.
Speaking of struggles, Lance Stroll there in 15th place currently, while his teammate of Fernando Alonso is up on the podium in 3rd place.
And poor Alex Albon down in 20th, but he's now caught the cars in front of him.
And you heard it there, our team principal, not happy, kind of really calling both myself and Alex Albon out. Albon spun himself around. I spun myself around, of course. Albon was just a simple mistake. Mine was more greed, rookie kind of error, going for a move that really wasn't going to work. I mean, it would have worked if I didn't crash myself. But that it is what it is. We have to move on. I think there's going to be a conversation as well with James following this Grand Prix. I'm pretty confident he's not happy. But nonetheless, we have run down Stroll, we've run down Hülkenberg, but there was a bit of a development. Mark would come over the radio and he actually did tell me that Esteban Ocon was having a mechanical issue. So Ocon now starting to back up here. And I reckon by the time we come around to this front straightaway, Nico Hülkenberg is about to have an opportunity of a lifetime to get past the Frenchman. And that's going to happen right here. DRS rear wing wide open. He moves to the right side. Ocon protects the left, and it's not even going to be a contest. Through Hülkenberg goes Stroll. He shows the nose. A bit of a deep dive there from the Canadian, who does show some aggression for once. They're still wheel to wheel. I actually get a warning there. I'm bump drafting NASCAR style on the back of Esteban Ocon. But now we are going to be able to go through. He's got that rear wing open, but you can see just how much speed he's losing because of his issue. We go through into P15. Can we get Lance Stroll or Hülkenberg or both before this Grand Prix comes to an end? Running out of time, lap 33. Now Stroll has run down Hülkenberg into turn number 1. He looks to get the job done, but Hülkenberg keeps the nose up the right side. Near contact, Stroll through into P13, but that slowed Hülkenberg's speed. We get to the back of the German. To the right side, he goes left. We both are going to drag race to the back of the Aston Martin's rear wing into turn 4, and we're going to be wheel to wheel near contact. Now those mediums haven't been firing off very well for Hülkenberg now, and again side by side up the elevation. Earlier we were on the left, we wrecked ourselves. This time we get it done on the right side, thankfully, and we try to now set our focus in on Stroll as we would both leave Hülkenberg over a second behind in the DRS of the Canadian, but we just can't quite get close enough. 3 laps to go. Verstappen leads, but Leclerc and Alonso are not far behind, but I don't know if they're going to have enough time. 2 laps to go, and look at the run we have on the back of Lance Stroll. Into turn 1, he shows the defensive line, parks it in the middle of the track. I couldn't do anything, so we just had to stay put from there all the way through this penultimate lap. The final lap is already underway, and Verstappen is now under pressure from Leclerc, but not close enough, and if they can't get him here, they probably won't get him anywhere. Verstappen maintains the lead of the race out of turn 4. As you can see on the track map, we start the final lap ourselves here down towards turn number 1. One shot at Stroll again. He covers off to the left. He puts it right where he needs to put it there in turn 1. We can't really pounce on it, and he's got enough of a gap as I slip and slide into turn 4. He maintains, and it's not going to be enough, unfortunately, for myself. Who it is enough for is Max Verstappen, who's rounding the final couple of corners. It's going to be win 67 and not quite clinching a 4th championship yet, but extremely close, and he can do so in the next episode. Leclerc, Alonso, the rest of the podium now. Verstappen 67 wins in Formula 1. We've got a chance maybe to get Stroll if he maybe runs out of battery, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. He is using it all the way down this front straightaway. We are going to drain our battery. We're going to have DRS. We're going to get a run, but it's not going to be enough. P14, a nightmare of a day here for Williams as we cross the stripe. A disappointing day. I don't have anything to say. That was, on me and Alex. We let the team down today. And we do have a very urgent post-race meeting with our team principal of James Vowles. As Max Verstappen, he's going to celebrate the victory here with Leclerc and Alonso on the podium. But as we go into the podium celebration, let's listen to a little bit of what James Vowles had to say behind the scenes in the paddock to myself and Albon.
I don't want to hear a word out of either of you. We're fighting for points in this Constructors' title, and each position is a huge difference in money. Both of you threw away anything we could have done today because of your own mistakes. What the hell were you guys doing out there?
James Vowles rightfully not happy in this situation. That was on Alex, that was on myself. It is what it is. Obviously, we can't turn things around. We can't change what happened right there. It certainly sucks. All we can really do is focus in on going forward and trying to better ourselves for the final 3 Grand Prix weekends. Of course, we got Las Vegas, we got Qatar, we got Abu Dhabi as well. So all 3 night races actually on the way to end the season. I think it's going to be an interesting stretch that hopefully myself and Albon can, kind of rebound and make it up to the team there for the disappointment of today. That's 3 consecutive rounds now without a single point. Oscar Piastri, the last one in the points there, while his teammate of Lando Norris had a solid result. Verstappen, 76 points ahead. He can lock it up next episode in the sprint in Qatar if he just comes out of there with that same gap to Leclerc. As you can see, Red Bull right now at the top as well in the Constructors, as we remain P6 in the Constructors ourselves. That does it for me. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching, and have yourselves a great day.